It's just that the Obama administration utilized the findings of the investigation that was valid to attack Donald Trump, is what they're saying. And through that, they omitted key parts of the investigation that showed that Russia even had more dirt on Hillary Clinton that they simply did not reveal. Of course, like as I was talking about earlier, there have been some new revelations, new ways of trying to shift the attention away, shift people's priorities away. Obviously, one of the biggest villains among the base for MAGA was Barack Obama. And it's clear to me that the Trump administration is actively trying to move the attention away by focusing on Barack Obama here. Charlie Kirk, being the loyal servant of the elite that he is also playing along with this conspiracy, or playing along with this deflection. Wow, page 17 of the declassified House Intelligence Committee report is wild. It reveals that Russia had huge amounts of potential anti-Clinton dirt that it sat on in the final days of the 2016 campaign. It included internal claims that Hillary was on heavy tranquilizers and suffering intensified psycho-emotional problems, evidence of severe health ailments like type 2 diabetes and ischemic heart disease, internal DNC comms that Obama and others found Hillary's health extraordinarily alarming, evidence of secret meetings with religious leaders where Clinton offered significant increases in funding from the State Department in return for their support, internal Democrat admissions that European allies were unenthusiastic about a Clinton presidency and thought she was not up for the job for head of state. If Russia was really all in on supporting Trump and hurting Clinton, it would have leaked this information in October 2016 when her lead in the RCP average slipped to just 1.3 plus. Ischemic, sorry. Instead, Russia didn't, completely debunking the core assumptions of the Russia hoax. Rather than admit they were wrong, Brennan's CIA buried the info and manufactured a completely alternative reality to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump. Charlie Kirk is trying to relitigate the 2016 election that Donald Trump won at the behest of Donald Trump, at the direction of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump does not want to have a conversation about Jeffrey Epstein. Let's take a look at some of this information now. Breaking news, Tulsi Gabbard joins the White House press briefing after bombshell accusation against Obama.
Tulsi, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our...
Bro, this is so funny because the Democrats use the Russia stuff in the exact same way. Okay? They use the exact same tone and they use the exact same, like, this is so severe, guys. This is a bombshell accusation. And ironically enough, as someone who has been a vocal critic of the Russiagate conspiracies, especially to the extent that they ran on with like MSNBC tying everything back to Russia somehow, and significantly overestimating Russia's involvement, or rather the amount of the Russian capacity to influence elections, this is even dumber than the MSNBC style Russiagate stuff. Was there... I'll do a rehash of what my assessment was early on. Okay. Was there enough evidence for the Obama DOJ to investigate the Trump campaign's involvement with Russia? Absolutely 100%. Okay. It is completely ridiculous. I would never say that there is no reason to investigate the Trump campaign and their close ties to Russia. Of course there was a reason. Of course. It's crazy. I mean, you had people openly talking to Russian agents. It's ridiculous. Having said that, do I believe that Russia was also invested in a Trump victory? Yes. Okay. I do. Having said that, however, the Democrats greatly overemphasized the influence and impact that Russia had on this election in an effort to take away the responsibility from the horrible Clinton campaign and the horrible ways in which the DNC refused to reckon with the reality that they had a deeply unpopular candidate that they were in the tank for because they were terrified of a Bernie Sanders emergence from the primaries. Okay, they were locked in on Hillary Clinton. It was her time, and they spent most of their effort attacking those who actually were excited to be involved in the process of voting for a candidate that they actually believed in. And instead of pointing out a litany of different complications, a litany of different issues within the DNC structure, they thought that this was a great out, and they kept using the Russia stuff over and over and over again, continuously throughout the entire Trump administration. And they just used and abused this narrative. Okay, that's it. Was Russia involved in was Russia involved in like messaging campaigns that tried to interfere with the American elections? Of course it did. Okay, every country does this. We do this to other countries. Russia is doing it to us. I'm sure China is doing it as well. It's a normal part of the process. The reality of the matter is you're supposed to overcome these issues by having strong candidates with messaging discipline and decent policies. You're not supposed to lose to someone like Donald Trump, especially not twice. Okay? That's it. So my gripe with the Russiagate stuff isn't necessarily whether or not Russia was involved in American politics in a meaningful fashion or in any capacity whatsoever. It's more so the extent and the power that Russia had, that Russian influence had over the election. Okay? But it is pretty funny that the Trump administration is now desperately trying to pull it back to Russia. Israel did it too in 2016. Literally, quote, senior Israeli officials, we wanted to interfere with the election. I know. A big part of the Russiagate stuff, ironically enough, amongst the Democrats was that when they actually dove deeper into the election interference campaign and influence campaign, they found out that a lot of these guys weren't necessarily Russian, but coming from another country that also is, I mean, I guess basically like little Russia. That country, of course, is Israel, America's greatest ally. But that's besides the point. And Israel still continues to interfere in American elections openly without even getting restricted by, FARA registration, like FARA violations anyway. But now that the Epstein files are not being released and people understandably are demanding more information from the Epstein stuff, Trump has gone back and his administration has gotten together and decided that the real way to shift people's priorities and attention away is by relitigating Russiagate, but this time saying that the Democrats cynically and falsely used the Russian investigation to try and steal the election from Donald Trump. Except that was 2 election cycles ago. And not only that, or 3 election cycles ago at this point, I guess, like technically. And not only that, but Trump has won twice since then, including the election that they're saying Obama tried to interfere in.
Democratic Republic, and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. The records that we released on Friday that were ODNI records, Senator Chuck Grassley's release on Monday of what is known as the Clinton Annex, which was an appendix to the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's 2018 report, as well as the House Intelligence Committee's majority oversight report that we're releasing today, all come back to and confirm the same report. There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people. I'm going to go over the key findings from the House Intelligence Report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017. First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back leaking.
Wait, this is so funny because like they're basically lending credence to why an investigation was conducted into Russian interference in the election with this admission. Okay? Their argument basically is it was valid to investigate Russia and its involvements with the Trump administration because there was, Trump campaign at the time, because there was clearly like direct ties, right? Let's not forget, what was the name of the Greek guy who openly was telling some Australian embassy guys how he had direct talks with Papadopoulos, George Papadopoulos. I think that was what the guy was, right? He was like at a bar telling some Australian embassy folk that he just directly was talking to Russian agents, and they had big dirt on Hillary Clinton. But basically, this is a full-blown admission. It is a full-blown admission that that investigation was totally appropriate to conduct. It's just that the Obama administration utilized the findings of the investigation that was valid to attack Donald Trump, is what they're saying. And through that, they omitted key parts of the investigation that showed that Russia even had more dirt on Hillary Clinton that they simply did not reveal.
Held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken.
I also want to point something out here, but I have great respect for WikiLeaks, even though Julian Assange absolutely was anti-Hillary Clinton and most likely did not use any of the hacked material that they had on the RNC, any of the dirt that they had on the RNC side of things, because Russia had actually hacked both the RNC and DNC emails, and that they certainly were one-sided, that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks was one-sided on their revelations, and it was mostly just to harm Hillary Clinton. Having said all of that, I still don't care. I think it's perfectly valid to get this information. I think it's in the public interest to know, and that his investigation and the way that they actually tortured this person was completely inappropriate and was a direct violation of the First Amendment. And it continued on through numerous administrations. Okay. Yeah. WikiLeaks and its crime was doing journalism. You can't complain that they're revealing hacked material from only one side and not both sides. Okay. That's ridiculous.
What Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increase.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to have the same oomph and the same emphasis, especially in 2025, especially on the heels of this Epstein stuff. Ironically enough, if Trump actually wanted to harm Hillary Clinton now, he has a much better avenue through the Epstein files, you know? Like, what are we talking about? All of this is just like old shit that they're trying to desperately reheat, okay? It's done. You won, dude. You won the election, and you didn't even lock her up, you coward. You did not even lock her up after doing chance of locking her up. I can't believe this is what they think is going to present itself as a bombshell that will take the attention away from Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think it will. I think the MAGA base, no matter how much they despise Hillary Clinton, no matter how much they despise Obama, would much rather find new evidence that potentially ties them back to Jeffrey Epstein, which I don't even think there is any for Obama especially, but there is certainly a lot of evidence for Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. They would much rather get that information than rehashing this old nonsense.
And financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous. The intelligence community assessment omitted reliably sourced information, such as how some Russian intelligence officials were quote-unquote planning for candidate Hillary Clinton's victory, while others assessed neither Trump nor Clinton would respect Russia's interests. As was reflected in the ODNI documents that we released on Friday, multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump. On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the president, President Obama.
Not only is this 10 years old, but like this would have been more relevant to drop in, 2017, 2018, 2016, at any other point but now. It's so old, and it's literally things that we knew already that they are trying to reheat as though it's like new information. It's not. It's way past the point of mattering. And it's so funny to be like, and Obama is responsible for this. Like, Obama being invoked here is just because he has name recognition. It's just because he has name recognition and like people still hate him a lot, like in the Trump base.
Directed senior intelligence community agency heads and created an intelligence community assessment limited to just 5 analysts using one principal drafter. This is not something that occurs in the normal path of producing an intelligence community assessment that reflects the views across the intelligence community. The production of this intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directives directly from the president and senior political appointees, especially the former director of the CIA, John Brennan. The House Intelligence committee oversight report also shows how later that same day, on December 9th, Brennan ordered the publication of quote-unquote substandard reporting on Russian activities, which had previously been withheld from publication of prior assessments because the information was judged, quote, to have not met long-standing publication standards. Some of the information later used in the Obama-ordered assessment over the objections of veteran CIA officers was, quote-unquote, unclear or from unknown sources. The Intelligence Committee's oversight report reveals that CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment, stating, quote, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Yet, the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which explicitly stated, quote, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump has to do next. Because, like, I don't think this is going to have the heat. I don't think this is going to draw attention away. So what could he do next? Like, he has to do some, like, he might have to say, like, the N-word or something and start, like, do a new executive order where, like, white people can legally say slurs and it's illegal to criticize them. Like, it's actually now illegal to criticize white people saying slurs or something. Like, I guess, like, maybe he has to arrest Barack Obama, like, try to push for an arrest of Barack Obama, because this isn't going to do it. Yeah, go to Fifth Avenue and actually shoot someone and kill them. Create a new slur that we haven't heard of before. Like, unearth a new slur from the ancient tomes of racism. Just dust it off. Because aliens is not going to do it. Because they've already been using the UAP stuff quite a bit. Congressman Frost is claiming that the White House is preparing to release a concrete evidence of extraterrestrial life. I don't know if the alien stuff has that kind of impact, man. I know a lot of people, even in this community, like, care a lot about the UAP stuff. I have only seen it as a mechanism of distraction. I don't think the aliens is gonna cut it. I feel like the American population, even the MAGA base, is so goddamn locked in. Regarding the interest, here is Russia versus Epstein. I mean, it peaked on July 18th. It went down a little bit, but it's going up again. Every new drop. And that's like with Russia actively. That's with Russia actively bombing Ukraine. You know what I mean? Aliens won't cut it. Epstein will never stop being talked about until some names/files come out. Here's the thing. People are saying, oh, well, he has to, like, bomb Iran or something. It can't be something. Trump can't do something that is like that is worse overall than his refusal to release the Epstein files. Like, that defeats the purpose. I'm saying it has to be something that's, like, within his power. Because, like, when people say, oh, don't you think he's, like, bombing Iran as a distraction away from, like, the ICE raids? It's like, no, because bombing Iran is a severe escalation. A severe escalation that goes beyond, like, even the ICE raids in terms of foreign policy, at least. So I don't think he's going to, like, bomb Iran to get the attention away from the Epstein stuff. Because that's an issue in and of itself. That's a major problem in and of itself. It's a fairly significant problem. And you also can't really bomb Iran out of nowhere. What you can do, however, is tariff Israel. What you can do, however, is sanction Israel. What you can do is force Israel to actually engage in a real ceasefire, a commitment to a real, long-standing, permanent ceasefire. I'm just saying, I know there's there's got to be at least a couple Trump people in here right now listening in. Great opportunity. Make one boss call, become a hero, become legend. Okay. Although I do suspect that of revealing Epstein stuff is maybe even somehow related to Israel. So I doubt that they would do that. The Republican Party is very / somewhat conservative, 80%. 11% say moderate. Very somewhat liberal say 9%. I want to know who the 9% is liberal.
When possible, by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him. End of quote. The CIA and FBI, then led by John Brennan and James Comey, expressed high confidence in this judgment. while the NSA expressed moderate confidence.
Yeah, the 9% of the people who was on the Jubilee. The 9% of people were all of the Jubilee people.
Yet, as the report we released today shows, the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, did not cite any report where Putin indicated helping Trump win was an objective. The opposite is true. With regards to the Steele dossier, we now know that one of the source documents that the Obama administration used in the creation of this intelligence assessment in January of 2017 was none other than the discredited, unverified Steele dossier. The House Intel report states, quote, contradicting public claims by then CIA Director Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into this intelligence assessment. The dossier was referenced in the intelligence assessment's main body text and further detailed in a 2-page assessment annex. And lied. And he denied using this dossier in this intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered because he knew it was discredited. It was a politically motivated, manufactured document. He directed senior CIA officials to use it anyway. CIA officer told the House Intelligence Committee staff as they investigated this, quote, the director of the CIA, John Brennan, refused to remove it. And when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true? Even the bipartisan Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report published in 2020 criticized the FBI's handling of the Steele.
Am I wrong, or is it just super sauceless? It is unimaginably sauceless. It is the most sauceless the Trump administration has been until they somehow get even more sauceless tomorrow. Straight up. I love the role reversal though, because now you got right-wing news outlets desperately clinging on to Russiagate 2, which is even less important than Russiagate 1. And you got liberal news outlets running around talking about how Trump is a pedophile alongside Jeffrey Epstein. like it's hilarious, dude. What happened? There's a major role reversal here.
About you going through the Twitter files.
Oh God!
What's going on behind the scenes with the
intelligence everyone's
community.
favorite charlatan, Matt Taibbi.
To shadow ban, suspend.
Yeah, Gabbard. Obama admin pushed false Russia narrative. Matt Taibbi's in there in the building. Now let's take a look at CNN. Matt Taibbi, what a fucking fall from grace, dude. Trump is going to speak at a major AI summit soon, by the way. So there's that. The Will Cain show. Are we witnessing a political party switch again? No, there won't be, because this is a uniparty issue in reality. Like, liberal media is angling as to the best of their ability. Anyway, here's Taylor Popelar's National Political Report for Spectrum. Today, White House press briefing features Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. As the Trump administration tries to pivot away from the Jeffrey Epstein story, Gabbard has declassified a report that was made by Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee in 2017, chaired by then-Rep. Devin Nunes, who now runs Truth Social. Gabbard claims that the report shows the Obama admin weaponized intelligence to show Russian President Vladimir Putin interfered in the 2016 U.S. presidential election to help Donald Trump and hurt Hillary Clinton. Gabbard alleges it amounts to a coup and treasonous conspiracy. The report contradicts a bipartisan Senate investigation, one that then Senator Marco Rubio, who is now Trump's Secretary of State, supported as a senior member in the Senate Intel Committee, that found Putin sought to meddle in the 2016 election to hurt Hillary Clinton. There was enough evidence to absolutely investigate the Trump administration, the Trump campaign's involvement with Russia, and there was enough evidence to suggest, as Tulsi Gabbard herself has revealed here, that the Russian government absolutely wanted to intervene and did intervene in some limited capacity in the American elections. Okay? All of this is already true. We already know it. It's the extent of Russia's involvement that matters in this circumstance. Liberals say it's the most important, most significant thing, and they said it over and over again under the Trump administration. And now the Trump administration is saying, actually, they wanted to intervene on both sides, and the Obama administration simply focused on one aspect of it. Well, I think it's fair to focus on the aspect of the intervention against Hillary Clinton, especially considering that that was where the leaks came from. We have it on good authority that the Russian agents were capable of and did intercept communications from both the RNC and DNC. We only found out about the DNC side. I wonder why. Perhaps they saw Trump as a more malleable person than Hillary Clinton.
Dossier, noting its completely unverified nature and purposeful sidestepping of intelligence community procedures in its use. Now, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, and others, including their mouthpieces in the media, knowingly lied as they repeated the contrived narrative that was created in this January 2017 intelligence community assessment with high confidence as though it were fact.
The Steele dossier was completely validated, by the way. I don't know about that. There is no evidence to suggest that there were piss tapes, for example. Unless you mean that Trump's weird relationship with Vladimir Putin implies that the piss tapes are real, in which case, you know, I'll entertain it. Krasnow theories, Agent Krasnov theories.
John Brennan, as CIA director, stated in a memo to his agency staff in December of 2016, saying, quote, "There is strong consensus among us on the scope, nature, and intent of Russian interference in our presidential election." This was reported by NBC News, confirming that Brennan, along with James Clapper and James Comey, agreed with the CIA's assessment that Russia intervened to help Trump win the presidency. As Obama's director of national intelligence, James Clapper was tasked with overseeing the creation of this assessment in January of 2017 by President Obama, which included the high confidence judgment that Putin directly ordered the hacking and election interference. Clapper then went on to add, "I think they, the Russians, actually influenced the outcome." This is a brief summary of the details that you'll find within the House Majority Staff's report in their investigation into the Obama-directed January 2017 intelligence.
Bro, she's bored. Like, put some emphasis behind it. Like, this is your bombshell that Russia did try to intervene, try to interfere by hacking American emails, like American politician emails, like that the conspiracy is real, but then, like, what? Obama exaggerated the involvement that they had with Donald Trump or something. Like, this is not, like, how is this considered in any way, shape, or form in the post-Trump universe an indictable act? Donald Trump every other day does something that is a million times more consequential and unceremonious and uncharacteristic of the the way that the office, the power that the office has, than what they're suggesting Obama did. Like, they're calling this a coup. Like, even in the maximalist position with maximum charity, maximum charitability to the bombshell revelations here, Obama didn't even do anything. Obama didn't do anything that is like remotely as bad as like what, and we expect him to do this. This is so unimaginably inconsequential. I mean, January 6th is infinitely worse than this, okay? What are we talking about? And I say this as someone who thinks January 6th was funny. Like, what the fuck is this? Anyway, this was a really funny moment. Caroline Leavitt asked point blank, does Trump believe Obama should go to jail? And then there was also another question that was asked point blank that... what do you call it? That Tulsi Gabbard was privy to that she did not appreciate, but I'll get to that in a second.
I did speak to him yesterday about his upcoming trip, and he looks forward to continuing discussions with his Chinese counterparts. The president has ensured that we have a good continuing working relationship with China that benefits the United States, and so the Secretary of Treasury will be obviously discussing those key matters, but I'll let him set the expectations.
One more, if I may.
Sure.
Given what the DNI just said and laid out, does President Trump believe that President Obama should go to jail for something?
Look, the president believes that this matter needs to be thoroughly investigated, and anyone convicted of crime should be held.
Yeah, you're supposed to say yes here, point blank, okay? You're supposed to say yes, because that's the whole hope. That's the reason why. That's the reason why Trump wants this to be a story. It's not going to be a story unless you literally threaten to arrest Barack Obama.
Held accountable in this country. Go ahead.
Special Envoy Wickoff is headed overseas again.
Good to see you, Olivia. I haven't seen you since the campaign trail.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Except, ironically enough, the Supreme Court gave immunity to presidents in matters in matters that they declare that they have all power to declare presidential or not. So he's immune anyway. So even if he did something criminal, which I don't think he did, he would still technically be immune, unless, of course, the Supreme Court decides that this was beyond the scope of presidential powers, which, as we know, the Supreme Court is most likely going to side with Donald Trump on this regardless, but, you know, we'll see.
And I think, who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will.
Tulsi Gabbard, not excited about this question.
I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to. And that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made. Does anyone else have questions for Director Gabbard? I think.
Reporter, President Obama cannot be charged based on that immunity, except this, people misunderstand this. Okay? People misunderstand what the Supreme Court did by offering Trump additional immunity. Okay? People think this means it's a blanket immunity that works across the board. It's not the case. Okay? It's not. It's immunity until the Supreme Court decides this is not a presidential act. It just basically adds an additional hurdle, a really, really, really high hurdle that the Supreme Court will, of course,